What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabrel, and I'm with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well.
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, and we always like to start with what we've been playing. So it's been 2 weeks, Steve. What you been playing?
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit of everything. We're caught in a weird time here. So I dabbled a little bit more, Resident Evil 8, and I don't have too much more to say. I praised that game a lot, I think, last time, without getting into spoilers. I still really liked a lot of it. I really liked a lot of the game. After the Resident Evil, obviously, I took a step back and did play a little Returnal, Housemarque's little PlayStation 5 exclusive. And I have a weird relationship with Returnal, where playing the physical game is great. The moment-to-moment gameplay is great. But it's the one thing that, is about Returnal is, obviously the roguelike sort of dying, restarting type deal. And that's the one thing I don't like, for the sense that you pretty much lose everything. And there's a couple other mechanics, that are a little more wonky. There's some sort of I've seen some workarounds for some people where the issue is like the RNG and everything. So like the weapons being randomized and stuff is obviously part of the game. It's the roguelike aspect. But when you unlock more weapons, they start screwing up the balance. So you'll start finding your main weapon that you like less and less. Which is a weird oversight, so a lot of people actually suggest almost erasing your save until you at least beat the certain bosses and stuff like that. So it's weird. It's such a weird roguelike bullet hell type deal that at first makes no sense. It's really cool at first because when you die, it progresses the story, but then it gets to the point where you need to beat the first biome and the first boss, but it doesn't do it seamlessly or feel like you're progressing. Whereas in Hades, you feel like you do a lot of progressing, even after once you die, you kind of reset what you want to do for the next run, and then I felt anyway, I always made big progress in Hades. Where this one, I will do 4, 5, 6 deaths and not even want to play the game anymore before I even continue it. It does get its hooks in me, and I guess it's more of the power of the PS5 on how quick it loads and gets me to the beginning of the game again, where it's almost like, well, I'm already here, I should start another run. Whereas like Binding of Isaac and all these stuff do these big score screen and almost resets you. That sort of quick in and out of it is really fun. I will probably put it away for a while because I'm somewhere about 20 something deaths, and I can't progress. I cannot beat I get into the first boss multiple times. I've gotten to the first PT section, which is like walking in that house first person.
Oh.
But it's just, I just think I'm not good at the game. It's not one of those games where you can practice and things like that. It's one of those games where you need everything to sort of link up together. Where I specifically like using 2 guns. Now that I've unlocked more, it almost throws it off that if I get one of those guns right in the get-go, I kill myself because it won't work. So for me to like enjoy the game and progress in the game, too many elements need to align before I can play it. I can't just sit down and be like, this is going to be a good run. I have to do so much and hope for so much. It's not even do much. I have to hope for everything to line up perfectly to play it. But I mean, I have to give big props to Housemarque. The way it uses the DualSense is really cool, and the $70 price tag is kind of rough, but obviously we heard that that's more Sony's thing than it was Housemarque's deal. And I want to see what they do with a few updates. They're talking about some save features. Some of these runs are going long, which I know you've probably heard of, and everyone's heard of that. The runs are long. You're talking, once you get a good run, you might go for a couple hours. And so they're working on a save feature that's kind of hopefully make the game a little bit more playable. I know they're not going to remove everything we want. It's not going to become a third-person story-based action game. But I think if it gets to the point where we can just play more our way, we can explore a little bit more. But so those are the 2 games. I've really been playing. Obviously, I still dabbled a little bit in Mass Effect, and I'm going through still through the first one. I'm really taking my time with it. It's been so long, I don't really remember what story is, what missions like mainline the game, and I don't want to mainline it anyway because it's just, that's not I really want to experience this universe again, like it's brand new. So I'm just kind of taking my time with all those missions. and everything like that. So, that's sort of on the back burner that I've slowly just been progressing through. So that's kind of all I've been playing. Again, few different things here and there. Nothing besides those main games. So that's all I've been touching base with.
Yeah, I did have one question for you because I don't have Returnal, and so I was wondering about Returnal. So what I don't understand is, do you go until you die, and there's obviously almost like a permadeath per run, and so you can't save during that? Is it like just one, like Hades, pretty much, or?
Yeah. So, which was a big issue. There's actually an update now. When you launch Returnal, it tells you in yellow font, if you want to save during a run, put your PlayStation into rest mode, which is a workaround, but not really, because that puts your system in a vulnerable state. Actually,
my PS5 hates when I do that. When I put it into rest during, especially like a more demanding like PS5 game, it's crashed so many times when I've done stuff like that. It doesn't like it.
Yeah, and on top of that, Returnal's had plenty of problems and more than enough problems with like being stable and just crashing regularly.
Okay.
So it is. I won't play it if I don't have like a 2-hour window open, because I know I won't make it that far. But if I feel like if you only have 45 minutes and you're kind of good at the game and you want to explore, it's hard, because then the only other option is then to put your system into rest mode, which is really annoying.
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
not a
an
really
oversight.
Solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so for me, I've played a crap ton of stuff. So I guess I'll get like all the quick stuff out of the way. So Game Pass dropped some interesting stuff, so I've kind of been dabbling with some of that stuff. One of them is SnowRunner, and it's basically a truck sim, like a very realistic truck simulator. And it's like country as hell, and it's not great, but for some reason there's something interesting about it for me, where I'm just like stuck in the snow, and I forget what it's called, but you can like attach something to a pole and like pull yourself out of it, and I'm just it takes time. Like it's not a fast process. Like you're like slowly treading through mud and stuff like that, but I'm just like intrigued by it. And my girlfriend will sit next to me, and she's like looking at me, and she's like, what are you playing? And I'm just like, this is trucks, man. So yeah, that's SnowRunner. It's on Game Pass. So I mean, I guess if you're looking to kill like 30 minutes and you just want to be intrigued by something, you probably never played something like that before, try SnowRunner. It's interesting. The next one is Knockout City. That is the new EA dodgeball game.
Yes, I jumped in.
Yeah, did you ever get the chance to dabble with that?
I completely forgot until you mentioned it. I did jump in.
Yeah, pretty fun. Not bad. Not bad at all. I was not. So first off, I'm not a multiplayer gamer. You know that. And so on paper I was like, no. But actually just playing it, the gameplay loop is actually fairly simple. It's one of those things that's like easy to play, like difficult to master type situation.
Yeah.
And so I can appreciate that jumping in is actually a pretty easy process. There's not a million types of different balls, so you can get a vibe of what each of the balls do. And learning how to navigate. It runs good, looks really good. So I wasn't mad at it, and I was actually able to get quite a few, I don't know if you'd call it kills, but knockouts, I guess, knockouts. Myself in pretty early matches, and was able to help my team win and stuff like that. So for me, I was, and I'm not really good at games like this, I'm like, okay, so this is easy to jump into and get a little bit of traction, and then obviously you'll bump into matches that'll be more of a challenge and stuff like that. So what were your thoughts before I continue?
Yeah, I thought, it was pretty fun. I when I launched it up, I was nervous because I was like, man, this looks very Destruction All-Stars, Fortnite type deal. But it had like a more quirkiness to it. Almost like a, I don't know, it felt so Nintendo-ish almost. Yeah. But, I jumped into the tutorial, and then I was like, well, let me, because I know they had that, it was the free weekend or free week launch. And so jumped in, and I got a smile when I'm back and forth with this dude, right? And I don't know if it was just the way that it all lined up, where he tossed it back to me. He's an enemy, and I caught it, and you hear that I don't even know how to, the thum, that kickball noise. And then I just charged it, and I like sort of faked him out, and I snailed him, and I'm like, you know what? There's something here with this game where I'm like, this is kind of, I was having fun. I was like, this is kind of cool. I do, I like where they went with it. will I purchase it for like the $19.99 now that it's over? I don't know yet, but I think it is on Game Pass, right?
Yeah, it was. Now I don't know if it's gonna stay on Game Pass for free going forward. I have no clue.
Yeah, it was such a weird thing. That's why I was confused, because it was all mixed in with that free weekend, because it was everywhere for free for a week or a weekend. I don't even remember exactly, but I do wish there was like a little, maybe some sort of single player component. I probably would have definitely dabbled in
like
for
ARMS,
it a little bit more.
A little something.
A little ARMS, a little Splatoon type style. But I think it's actually a pretty cool, interesting game.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. There's a story right here, and it says that it will be free for 10 days at launch. So it came out, I believe, on May 21st. So you're going to get pretty much to the end of May. And then starting June 1st, I would imagine it would cost something, maybe. I wouldn't charge too much if I were them, but I mean, that's their business. Another game I was playing was something that I actually kept my eye out on Twitter, and I didn't get the chance to give it a shout out yet, but I want to give it a shout out now. So the game is called Never Yield, and it's on PS5 right now. And I've always been intrigued by looking for. So I'm a big proponent of supporting like developers of color and stuff like that. And so I was waiting for like that jump to happen for like next gen. Like where are those next gen indie games that I'll be able to support, and AAA if they happen to make, or like larger scale stuff I'd love to support as well. And so finally found one, Never Yield. Really, really awesome game. So it's developed by this guy named Ariel Knight, but I think his real name is like Neil Jones or something like that. I follow him on Twitter. And this game is awesome. So the best way I could probably describe it is you it's kind of like an endless runner, and you interact with the environment by doing certain button prompts. So like if something is coming towards you, you jump above it, you can slide under it, or you can hit like back and down at the same time and like do kind of like a middle flip, like where you kind of like Spider-Man flip through a window or something like that. And that's basically it. It's a pretty simple gameplay style, but it can get more challenging depending on what mode you choose, because you can choose a more difficult mode where there's no slowdown or there's no visual indicators of what's going to come to you. So it's in real time, just you reacting, which can be really, really challenging. Really awesome kind of cel-shaded art style, and excellent soundtrack as well too. It has like this really, really hard trap song for the menu song that I just loved, and I just let it rock for like usually like a minute before I play. So really, really good game. I've been taking my time with it. I only play it like maybe a level or two at a time, because I know I don't know how many levels specifically, but I know at some point there's a certain numbered level that I won't say because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, that apparently gets pretty crazy, and I haven't made it to that yet, so I'm taking my time with it. Only $12, so I highly suggest people go check that out. Never Yield. I'm also playing Mass Effect still. Beat Mass Effect 1 on Mass Effect 2, but I'm taking my time like crazy to play it as comprehensively as possible for 2 specifically, because I like Mass Effect 2 a lot. I like them all, but Mass Effect 2 I like quite a bit, and so I'm taking my time with it. I haven't even gotten to most of the loyalty missions because I'm just playing all the DLC stuff for the most part, and playing any of like the odds and ends assignments that you bump into, where it's like the Krogan wants to know if there's sushi on the Citadel, like stuff like that. I've been trying to do everything, and and then I'll get to the loyalty missions, and then I'll trigger the more bigger story thing. I'm at the point right now, not to get into crazy spoilers or anything like that, but there's the Reaper IFF point where once you trigger that, that'll lead you towards the latter half of the game. But before that, you can do all the stuff you want without any real time constraints, because you have to be careful of when you do certain things, because you want to make sure you have the Paragon levels for that. You want to make sure that you have a good enough relationship with someone. So I'm at a point right now where the story is in stasis, so you can do all the DLC stuff, all the loyalty missions, all the assignments without worrying about anything, and then you can kind of go into there with a really strong character, really good Paragon. If you're doing a Renegade run, I guess you could have really high Renegade as well. And so that I've been playing it as comprehensively as possible, and I plan on doing the same thing with 3. And I have bought Andromeda digitally because I had it on disc, so I fully intend on going into that, because I felt like this is the opportunity to play it most objectively ever, to be able to play all the games on the same console just back to back. And so that was the thing, is when I played Andromeda initially it'd been years since I had touched Mass Effect, and then when I tried to play it a second time, I had played Mass Effect on PS3, and then this was on current gens at that time. But now they're all on the same console. It's clean, so I can look at it very objectively, and that's my goal, is to just play all 4 games and then have like a real solid ranking of them, of where each thing falls and is it good, is it not. I think this will allow for the most objective view possible, and I'd love to have a conversation once we both get through the games about Mass Effect, now that we can see it through this modern lens on a modern console, cleaned up, like what our real thoughts are on these games finally. I'd love to be able to do that once we get a little bit deeper. So once you get past 1, we could talk about it. And I think that's everything for me. I've kind of dabbled around. I play a little Switch. I always go back to those like NES and Super Nintendo games that they add in there just to mess around with them. Some of them are good. Some of them are terrible. Like some of them, I don't know. I play them. They add this like super baseball game. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is this? And it's weird because there's first party stuff that are not on there still. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah, I have no clue.
Earthbound is missing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the most highly. It's so weird because it's like they're not doing anything with it to my knowledge, but they also won't release it that way. But then also they lose their mind when there's piracy. So I don't know what. I don't necessarily understand the psychology of Nintendo sometimes.
Yeah, it's super weird, and they don't really make sense. Because I know like Super Mario RPG is another one people are like dying for, and that won't appear on that.
Oh, that's not on there.
No, I think.
That's on the mini console.
It was on the mini console, so that's where again I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's strange, and again, I've always said like I don't necessarily encourage piracy. However, provide a legal alternative. So if someone's like, "Hey, I like Nintendo, I would like to play Earthbound. What is your suggestion, Nintendo?" And you don't have a good answer to that, then what do you expect? Like, and you're not losing money if there is not a legal alternative that people are ignoring. You know what I mean? Like if you don't provide a legal alternative, like people are gonna play the game one way or another. And saying like, go get the cart, go dig up your Wii U so you can wait 30 minutes for it to frickin' boot up because that UI of it's so terrible. No, absolutely not. Come on, stop it.
Hopefully they get it together. Yeah. So yeah, we've been both playing a few little different things. It's pretty good, and we have more things coming out soon. But let's jump right into the stories. This first one, I mean, I knew I was getting this story from the get-go. So, Sega has released a Nintendo Direct-style video conference named Sonic Central, and we got multiple announcements. So, pretty much a Sonic Direct, obviously more in celebration of Sonic's 35th anniversary this year. And it's at least, we got something. Sorry to all the Zelda fans. I'm a Zelda fan. We didn't get diddly squat. So, but it was a mixed bag of announcements. So we got Sonic Colors Ultimate, which was, I think a while ago we talked about it, that Sonic Colors was re-rated and stuff like that, and that this is a more complete edition, I guess. There was no DLC and stuff like that. I think this is pretty cool. I've been kind of wanting to play this again without having to go hook up the Wii U actually, or anything like that. I know you still have actually it on Wii U. Any interest for Ultimate?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a really, really, really smart decision in terms of like if you're going to re-release a Sonic game, especially if you're tapping into the 3D stuff. This is the game to go to. It's one of the best of the 3D ones. So I think it's a brilliant idea for them to go back to that, clean it up, bring it to modern consoles, and enough time has elapsed that a lot of people have not played this game. And coming off of Forces, and I don't mean to take shots at Forces, but coming off of Forces, I think this will be definitely a breath of fresh air because it's just clean Sonic. Like it's just it's everything good about 3D Sonic without all the nonsense that you a lot of the times that come with 3D Sonic games. So, I think it's a smart idea. I'm happy with it. It's been well enough time that I'd more than happily buy another one. I have it on Wii, but I have no problem buying this one again to be able to play it on like Switch or whatever. I'd like to see if there's any, like how... Because about Sonic... The interesting thing about Sonic games is that when they they came out like a long time ago, but when you put them like on Steam and PC, a lot of them have like really unlocked frame rates and crazy stuff that you can do with it.
Yes.
Like, and that's a very interesting thing about Sonic games is they're like ridiculously scalable. So you'll take something from like 10 years ago and you'll pop it onto like modern hardware, and it does things that's like, holy crap, like they really kept this in mind. This is a long time ago. And I have like, like Unleashed and Generations in my mind, the crazy stuff that you're able to do with that on modern PCs. So that's what I'm curious about is how much are they actually going to be able to do with this game on these modern consoles? So I wonder, like, if the Switch version will be a cleaned up version, but maybe a little bit closer to the original. But like, if you get it on PS5 or Xbox or something like that, they're 60 frames per second and 1080p resolution. Like, that's what I'm wondering is how cleaned up are they going to make this, and that will kind of impact where I get it. But no, I'm super down with this.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it as well. And I kind of hope it means that some of these other ones that have been locked away on Wii and other systems hopefully transition over a little bit.
Secret rings, please.
Yeah. That's a good game if you take the motions away.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the next one's one really excited. I know we both kind of lost our mind just a little bit. A Sonic Origins compilation. So it's an Sonic Origins collection, which will be bringing Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, 3... 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic CD. So as of right now, those are the 5 titles that are announced for it. I think this is amazing. It's been a while since we've gotten just this. I know sometimes Sega does their random collections and they'll throw a random Sonic game on there. Yeah. Sonic 3 obviously has been the big one that's been in a sort of limbo, an issue with obviously the music licensing and stuff like that. And sometimes I know there's like there's an edited version of 3 on Steam that's fused with Sonic and Knuckles already, and that exists fine. But I think it's gonna be fun to at least have it there now. Now that there's so many people who've been wanting to play that one, and that's just been MIA for so long for kind of dumb reasons. We didn't see anything except some old screenshots and some old gameplay. I would have liked to see a menu or some UI, something. We pretty much just got their word that it's gonna happen, and the name. So I know I'm super excited. I know you're gonna be excited for this as well.
Yeah, probably. And what frustrates me the most is like I'm definitely gonna get this, which is annoying because I literally can look behind me at my cabinet, my little bookcase of games, and I have like multiple Sonic collections already with more games than this is gonna have. But I'm probably gonna get it again too because you can't go wrong with the Sonic collection, and the only way you can really go wrong is obviously not getting all the games together. But now that they got 3 there, like, I mean, I'm excited to see what they've done to it, in terms of like, did they settle something with the Michael Jackson estate to actually keep the original one, or are they going to just re-release it with a modified soundtrack, which is what we've been suggesting for God knows how long. Just modify the soundtrack and re-release the game. Like, it's a third of your original trilogy. Like, figure it out. Like, just not releasing it is not a suitable option. Like, that's so crazy. Like, again, imagine it's like the Master Chief collection came out and it's like, sorry, Halo 3 is not on it. Weird soundtrack thing. Yeah, we're just going to leave it like that. So it's Halo 1, 2, and 4. Sorry. It's like, how crazy would that be? So
exactly. It's exactly what we've been getting.
Yeah, it's like, figure it out. And so I'm glad that I'm curious. I'm just really curious to see what they did with it. And it can't go wrong with the Sonic collection.
Yeah, especially those core ones.
Definitely.
A small addition to the Sonic Colors, which is that they're doing a Sonic Colors Rise of the Wisps animated short. They haven't really said how many parts that animated short's going to be. It's a weird style. I thought it was going to be like an addition to Sonic Colors, but I guess it's going to be streaming separately. It's a really weird thing. I mean, I'll check it out if it's available around there. Sonic animations are either really, really good or like awkwardly bad.
Yeah.
I think it's it's fun that they're exploring that world a little bit more, especially the fact that the Wisps have stayed in the Sonic games without much explanation. So maybe this has some tie to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really weird too, but at the same time, I like the art style. And Sonic and animation have always kind of gone hand in hand. They've had Sonic cartoons of some iteration pretty much since its launch back in the 90s. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I was a little confused as to, like, again, I was like, does this come with the game? Or, like, what is this and how is this being released? So I had some questions there, but I suppose it's cool. And again, this was a Sonic dedicated show, So it makes sense to just throw on whatever Sonic news you have. That it's like any like you're not gonna throw that into a Nintendo Direct with Sonic Colors being announced. Like, hey, and we have an animated short too. Like that's not gonna happen. So it makes sense that at a dedicated Sonic Sega show, hey, throw us everything you got. So I'm down with it. I'll watch it.
Yeah, me too. So some Sonic crossovers also was announced. So there will be Sonic outfits will appear in 2 Point Hospital, which is funny. It's a game I've been looking at to get because I've seen some people play it and I have no idea what's even going on. Super weird that you can have like the doctors and stuff dressed as Sonic and Knuckles and Tails. I don't know, but the game has a weird animation style in general, so that's going to be interesting. And then the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, not to be confused with the Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games 2020.
Yeah.
This is the official Olympic Games 2020. Obviously that was delayed to coincide with the actual Olympic Games. You can play as humans in Sonic mascot outfit. Practically is what from my understanding, that's what I saw. As much as I have no interest in the Olympic Games or in any of these weird sort of like non-realistic sport games. Even if you add a giant Sonic helmet, I can't play this. But it's a fun addition, especially since all this and the 2 Point stuff I believe is free, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Whoever's excited for that, have fun. I don't. I have nothing for you.
Yeah. Good for them. It's cool. For some people. Epic Games and Amazon Luna will be receiving Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and Sonic Team Sonic Racing will be coming to Epic Store and Amazon Luna. I didn't notice they weren't on Epic Game Store already. And Luna's on this sort of launching thing, it's made sense which is funny because I think I might be slightly confused because on Amazon Luna when I tried it, I did play Sonic Mania. I don't know if it's maybe I was in there considered an early access or whatever, but more celebration getting those Sonic games. I mean, Sonic's been multi-platform for a while, so it makes sense to just keep them coming out everywhere, in my opinion. Anything to say about that?
Stadia better have those. They better have those.
No mention of them. The two Sonic mobile games, the Sonic Forces mobile game, and then I forgot the other one, Sonic Run. It's the Endless Runner on Sonic.
Yeah, I played that one.
They're getting some celebration events. They teased some new characters coming out, and Sonic gets a pirate outfit, and Shadow gets a pirate outfit, and just mobile game events. So again, just in tune for that celebration of Sonic stuff, which is cool because I do still play that game every once in a while. I'll just jump in and do a couple of runs. Until they hit me with a buy 100 rings for 99 cents, and then I usually don't. And then I shut it down pretty quickly. But that's cool that they're still supporting this. I'm surprised that the Sonic Forces mobile game is still up and running because that one's strictly multiplayer. But that would be pretty cool to check out. And we got a small Netflix Sonic Prime update. Again, they're kind of killing me with this because they're not showing or anything. We get, again, just more word of mouth information. I really think this would have been the time to show somewhat of a teaser or something, but that Sonic Prime will be something we can discuss when it appears. It's kind of still just in limbo. Anything to you have any thoughts on that?
I pretty much in the same boat as you. I just want to see what it is in the first place, and I know better than to write off Sonic shows completely because Sonic Boom, the show, kind of actually surprised me a little bit, where I was like, this is actually not that bad. I didn't sit there and bang through every season, but I didn't think it was that bad. Considering what the games were, I was like, you know what, this is actually not bad. And I loved Sonic X growing up, so I think there's endless potential in that world. I just don't know what they're going for with Prime because obviously they have different levels of commitment to the lore depending on the era of the show. Obviously Sonic X went pretty deep, and even some of the 90s stuff tapped into pretty heavy Sonic lore, but then since then it's been a little bit on the lighter side, and Sonic Boom was a fun kids show thing but with solid animation, but it was a very different thing. So I don't know what they're going for Prime, and that will kind of make me more or less interested once we get more details.
Yeah, makes sense, and hopefully we get something soon.
Yeah.
And then to cap off the show, again, they also announced a new Sonic. I guess they didn't announce it. I guess they teased a new Sonic game. You just see a nice little colorful forest, Sonic running through with some weird digital specs kind of showing, like something was scanning him or something like that. A weird symbol, and that's it. Not even a title. It's pretty much, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it's the big rumored Sonic Rangers game, which people were able to kind of rip that data out of, and it's also been something kind of floating around for a while that Sonic Rangers is the title. The title I'm not really concerned about because you literally just put whatever behind after Sonic, and that sounds like a Sonic game.
Definitely.
So I wish I had something to say. It's just they didn't show much. I've seen some people kind of really dissect that teaser a little too much, where they're saying, that shoe style is not modern Sonic. It's also not classic Sonic. It's like a weird new Sonic. And
interesting.
And people were like, people have gone to like the curvature of the shoe and how he's running, because they purposely don't show him. They show just enough of him. But I mean, it looked cool for a second. If we would have seen just something a little more, but we still have the rest of the year. E3, maybe Sega will show a little bit more and give it a title and stuff like that. So the Sonic Direct was more just like a teaser for the year of celebration of it. So, which is exciting. Until I see more, I mean, I can't be like super excited about it, but we'll have to see if they give us something. I think that was a weird way to do that. But I mean, it looked cool from what we saw, the 2 seconds we saw.
Yeah, we need more information for me to really feel strongly about it. I'm curious. I think it said 2022 for a release date.
Yeah, that as well. So pretty far off.
Yeah, so we got some time. I'm curious to see like how ambitious this is. Is this like a full like AAA experience? That excites me if they're gonna really throw the budget behind it and do this properly and get this all on the main consoles. Because again, it just feels like it's been a while since people have really talked about Sonic like in a mainstream way like that, and I would love for it to get back there. And Forces certainly dabbled in it, but again, it skews heavy into the fan base already. That's pretty large, but I would love to see it. I've always wanted Sonic to be back in that Heroes era into the mainstream again. And again, I feel like, I don't know why, but I've always felt like them getting back in close with Nintendo is the way to do that. But who knows if that'll ever happen. But I feel like if they market things properly, like this is a dedicated, big, major Switch game, I feel like that would be great for Sonic, personally. Because I feel like the Nintendo fans and the Sonic fans are like two sides of the same coin of just lunacy. So I feel like they work well together. So I'm curious to see is this on everything? Did they say what consoles it's on?
The new one? I don't believe so.
Yeah, so I'm curious, this is multi-plat release across everything? That's my question. Is this like a new era of Sonic with them talking about all these new looks? Is this just a simple redesign or like a new gameplay style? I would love to see them dabble with the open world thing again at some point. Because again, I feel like they dabbled with it. They didn't do too great with it, but the game industry has changed a lot. That team, I would imagine, is a lot different now than it was at one point. These consoles can perform very different things. So I would love for them to not just let Sonic 06 be the death nail in that attempt to do that properly. Like a Sonic adventure in 2022 is an exciting prospect as far as I'm concerned. So I would love to see whatever Rangers or whatever it ends up being called turns out to be ambitious, to be the best of what 3D Sonic can be, but also I feel like I want it to be the one that finally gets it right, if that makes sense. I don't want them to just give up on it and be like, okay, we can't really do 3D open world Sonic. And it's like, no, because you did it weird. And it's like, there's ways to do that. Look around at the different mascot platformers who are able to make that jump properly, and take inspiration from Odyssey. That's what I think about. Like, look at what Odyssey was able to do, where it's like it's open, but it's contained environments with so much fun things to do, and find a way for that to work for Sonic, because that was the spirit of what Adventure and Adventure 2 did so well. in many ways. And yeah, it has its jankiness, but that's what I'm hoping for. I have a lot of ambitions for Sonic Rangers that I'm sure they're going to probably let me down to some capacity, but I have no doubt it'll be fun. But
yeah. Before we move on, real quick note, it does say that it is confirmed for Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, PC, Xbox One, and Series.
Oh, okay, so it's going everywhere. All right.
So everywhere. So we'll see what that entails.
Oh, I just hope take advantage of the hardware, man. Let's see 4K Sonic. I want to see what that looks like. So I guess we can move on to the next story here. And we got a little bit of Cyberpunk news, as we always do. But I try to keep it to the point where there's like new developments, not just people trashing on them. So I guess Cyberpunk's getting a new director. So Gabriel Amontangello, sorry, I butchered his last name, will be Cyberpunk 2077's new game director, GI Biz reports. He will replace former Cyberpunk director Adam Badowski, who remains at CD Projekt, but will focus on other projects. Amontangello will be tasked with leading development on CD Projekt's upcoming expansions, which are currently in development. CD Projekt is also actively working on improving Cyberpunk 2077. Amontangello was previously Cyberpunk 2077's creative director, where he was tasked with bringing the game's multiplayer to life, which who knows what that was going to happen with that now. A BioWare veteran, Amontangello worked on Star Wars The Old Republic as a PvP designer and Dragon Age Inquisition DLC, so he has quite the resume, so he seems very much qualified for this role. I'm curious to see if this changes the material conditions with Cyberpunk whatsoever. Yeah, I'm just curious to see if his vision maybe shapes things, the timeline, focusing on certain things, prioritizing certain things. A director can shift things quite a bit, and I don't necessarily disagree with the idea that like Cyberpunk 2077 might need some new, not necessarily new eyes, because he's obviously been involved with it, but somebody new at the helm to kind of maybe correct course a little bit. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, it was interesting. It's funny for a moment when I read that, I'm like, the game's out. How did you get a new director?
Yeah.
But then I did a little bit more deep diving, because I'm very naive when it comes to that. I did a little bit more of that deep dive and found out, one, his resume of who he was replacing, actually, Adam Badowski, and what that means. Obviously it's more overseeing. Cyberpunk's pretty much still in development, almost in a sense. Not to bog down its release. It's still in a sense in development. They're working on obviously on a relaunch. You gotta assume when it comes to these new consoles, the native version, they're gonna want this to be as a relaunch. Who knows what that multiplayer is ever gonna even be a thing? They've been very dodgy and tongue-in-cheek lying about like it's not a thing, it does exist. No, it's gonna be moved, and what that all looks like, and what this DLC they want to do. Because the last thing they want to do is start putting all this DLC out and just no one's even playing the base game. So I think having some maybe a fresh set of a fresh mind on what maybe can be done. He could come, Amontangello could come and either fix and help Cyberpunk, and who knows, that he might come and make things worse. I don't see that happening, making it worse, but we have to hope that he kind of has a goal and a game plan in mind, and it's not going to just start winging it. But it's interesting to see that they're committed, but to the point that they're getting new directors and changing people in and out. They really do want this game to succeed. I want this game to succeed. So if bringing him on helps the game, then I'm full for it.
Yeah, and it bugs me out the fact that we're like a day or two away from June 2021, and this game is still pretty much broken for the most part.
Yep.
If you have the PS4 version, you're still not really able to play it properly. I've dabbled with it with each major patch just to see, and I guess I can see more stability. It's kind of hard to test because unless I really go and play multiple missions, I already beat the game, and I'm not trying to replay the ending over and over again, so I kind of just run around the world. And I haven't been able to see any major differences, but that doesn't necessarily count as an indictment against them because, again, I haven't properly played. But from all that I know, this game is still not fully functional for especially the last gen people. And again, it just makes you think, like, if this was just released as a current gen game and just, or like a PS5 and Xbox Series X game, and they kind of just tried to fix it from there, the PR would have still been rough because the game is still very buggy on these consoles. But I mean, the whole unplayable refund debacle, like I think it's still not even on the PlayStation Store, right?
No, yeah, digitally it's still not up.
That's so crazy. Like I thought they were going to restore it, but it looks like I doubt it's probably going to come back until a proper relaunch. So who knows how long that's going to be. So it's crazy seeing this roadmap that they had at one point where there was supposed to be like a story expansion, single player DLC, multiplayer modes where multiple people can run around, and we've seen none of that. They're still in the patch stage, and it's just it's not good. It's not good at all. And I hope they can turn it around, but the timetable is looking so crazy. That's the only thing I have concerns about. We've talked about that before, where it's like No Man's Sky happened. Like it's not impossible for you to turn around really bad PR about a game, absolutely. But the thing is, look at the timeline now. We're halfway through 2021. This released in 2020. This was a last year game, and we're halfway through 2021, and they haven't even touched story DLC releases at all. They're still in the patching stage. They're still trying to make this game functional, let alone sweeten the deal for people who want to keep playing their game. So it's just like I almost am starting like the paths of success are starting to narrow a little bit, where it's like you better move on this quick, because a year out from release, 2 years out from release, like when are things really, when is this game going to truly be content complete is my question. So you can actually start supporting it post game, because as far as I'm concerned, we're not in post game support right now. They're still trying to finish the game as far as I'm concerned, and that is like nightmare scenario. So I wish them the best, but I don't see how this works out long term.
Neither do I. I think about it. I see it on my dashboard every once in a while, and I do the same usually when these huge updates. I go in, but I'm in the same part where I don't want to really redo a new run yet, a new file, so I just ride around the city. I'm like, I don't see too much. I do some random side missions, but it's like, at the beginning of the game is what was like, was super broken, so it's like, I don't know. It's hard to compare apples to apples. It's just also like, when I go into it, I'm just like, no real urge to keep playing the game, which sucks because I do enjoy it pretty much, but it's, I'm hesitant, but hopeful.
Yeah, it's nuts because another game that kind of just released a proper next-gen patch, Last of Us, I booted that up, and I meant to talk about that in games I've been playing, but I just dabbled. I just wanted to see how it looked with the patch and stuff like that. And, I mean, that game just runs incredibly, like not a frame out of place, like nothing. Yeah. It's just so polished, and just the fact that like that game came out before Cyberpunk, like it's just the quality. And again, I know it's not apples to apples, but like holy crap, man! Just talking about two games in completely different places that both got bad PR for very different reasons. And one is obviously skewed way worse than the other. Whatever Last of Us went through. But like just seeing these two games, that I keep them both on my dashboard. I still have Cyberpunk installed. It's like 100 gigs or something like that. I'm like, I'm not trying to re-download that. So I keep it there. But I just seen these two games together, and like it's like Cyberpunk's there. I got Hitman there. That is just like, I mean, chef's kiss, beautiful. You got like Mass Effect there, and like Never Yield now. It's like all these games are better running than your game. It's just like, what happened?
Yeah. We as always we hope for the best.
Yeah.
So we got a quick small state of play as well this week. Sony dropped a new state of play dedicated to Horizon Forbidden West. We saw 14 minutes of gameplay, and strangely, and that's actually the biggest thing that stuck out to me, no release date. Also, not even that they just didn't release it, they also did not phrase anything as in, we'll see more, or you'll experience more later this year, you'll see more later, all these phrases where it's like, you'll get your hands on it later this year, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it later this year. None of those kind of terms came up, which is all red flagging to me that this game, not that it's in danger or anything like that, it's just it may not be ready yet. Because then, we still have some time. It is time to date this. The fact, like you said, we are 2 days away from June. Yep. E3 is right around the corner, so a lot of things are going to start dating, and you either have to solidify your spot or come out and just announce that it is releasing a little bit later than planned. The 14 minutes of gameplay, I didn't sit and watch the 14 minutes from beginning to end. I don't know if you did, but I kind of just scrolled through it, and it's more Horizon. And I mean that in the most respectful and amazing way. Before anyone will hear that, I don't mean that it's like, oh, it's more of the same. No, it's exactly what I wanted to see. I think it's pretty cool. I do like the way that you have this other sort of tribe, and they're taming and painting and giving them like these sort of ancient symbols and stuff like that to sort of show ownership. I think the game looks great. Parts of the game, I'm almost intimidated. Like, how does that even run on a PS4? Because we're seeing PS5 gameplay from the State of Play. I'm like, I don't know how this is running on PS4. I really don't. But it gets me. I'm excited. I'm excited for Horizon. I do think it's weirdly timed, the State of Play, 2 weeks before Ratchet. I don't know if they want to keep in the conversation and they have something planned out, or if they just wanted to drop something right before E3 because they're technically not at E3, and they maybe drop something right afterwards. We'll see how that plan works out, but I think it was an interesting, and this is something they've been doing pretty much for a while for each of their games that have been releasing this year, especially on PS5. So, what did you think of the footage and the State of Play?
Yeah, so I did kind of just I think it was like yesterday or the day before. I was kind of late on it, but I did kind of just sit down and watch the whole gameplay front to back, and I think it looks incredible. I paid close attention to one thing. So I'm very interesting about the kind of aesthetic differences between this game and the previous one, where the utilization of like a very high contrast, warm color tones. It's very vibrant, very neon, compared to the first one that was very snowy, a little bit more muted, more natural colored. So that's very interesting. Is just kind of aesthetic differences with this one, with them going into more of like a tropical environment, at least for the section that they showed, because I'm sure it's gonna have crazy diversity of environment, just like the first one did. So yeah, I was really, really liking that. There's small things I pay attention to like. I try to look for the touches where I'm like, oh, that's a PS5 thing. Like that wouldn't have happened last gen, and then. Those are the things I pay attention to when they like with Ratchet, for example, where you're seeing them move through the portals and some of the movement and all the various sprites on screen. It's like, okay, so this would be a frame rate nightmare on last gen. So there's certain things that I look out for, and there's some stuff about like the movement that that high frame rate combined with just what that engine's able to render in this console is just really incredible. Like the movement is getting so natural. In terms of like when she's just running around, Aloy's face when she's talking, when she's climbing things, that it's just this movement, this level of animation. Not that it couldn't have been done last gen, but wasn't being done last gen, because they're just masters over there, getting better with each release. So it's really, really impressive stuff. I like what I saw. I don't love when it's so hard to tell like how accurate of the gameplay it's really going to be down to a player level when they're kind of seamlessly going back and forth between cutscenes and actual gameplay. Now, some games, now that I just mentioned it, actually, Last of Us, for example, when they were showing you kind of going back and forth between narrative, cinematic cutscene, and actual gameplay, and how seamless it is and how clean, and it almost is like you're playing through a movie, that was actually accurate when the game came out. I'm like, okay, yeah, so they weren't perpetrating a fraud here. Like, it actually does play like this. Where like and especially the better you are at that game, the more cinematic it looks. Same thing with Ghost of Tsushima, for example. And so I'm curious to see how much of this holds up. Where like is how much of that was just like cleanly choreographed, and how much of that is like you can really on the fly do that much stuff. Hook shot from place to place and climb up this, and it's breaking through a wall. Like how much of that is going to happen, and how much variation can that exchange have? That's a big question that only time will tell. But yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm curious to see where this falls on Sony's timeline as well too, because as of right now, I don't think they have a major third-party offering for fall. I don't think they got Ratchet. At some point, Horizon's happening, and at some point, God of War is happening. But do they have something definitive for this fall? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think everyone's sort of assumed this would be that fall game.
Yeah.
Because I think even early on, we all guessed summer for Ratchet. It's right before technically what summer is. But so I guess it kind of has to be. Yeah, they're in a weird spot with that. I don't know yet.
Yeah, because I think having a good fall offering would obviously be great for Sony. But hey, sometimes things have a quick turnaround as well, too. We saw Ratchet some time ago, but when they started really showing things off, now it's coming out, like, June 10th or something like that? So it was a pretty quick turnaround on that game. We got to see it running, or we got to see the trailer, we got to see it running, we got some narrative stuff, and then we actually seeing it come out. And in that time, like, there was questions like, okay, how far in development is this? Because this is not your run-of-the-mill, like, mascot platformer here. They're doing some wild stuff. So we don't know necessarily where Horizon is in terms of development, but the Frozen Wilds DLC was tail end of 2017, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it's been it's been some time. It's coming up on 3 to 4 years. So the timeline checks out for them to be able to hit the 2021. It's just with COVID and everything that's thrown such a mess into people's timelines where I wouldn't be surprised if this slipped into Q1 2022 at all. I don't think that's necessarily bad either. I think Sony's in a place where they're, with this new console, third-party support, I think they'll do perfectly fine if they don't have a major first-party offering. However, I think that would be ideal situation for them. And also speaking to the thing, like, could this even run on last gen? Like, my initial instinct is like, I don't necessarily understand how. But at the same time, I had the exact same reaction when I played Horizon the first time in 2017, where I'm like, how the hell is this playing on this? And then fast forward all the way to 2020. I mean, playing Ghost of Tsushima, I'm like, how the hell are they doing this? Like, I don't know. The first Sony first party are just masters of extracting power. So I have no doubt that they'll be able to make a incredibly beautiful, perfectly functional version on that base PS4, PS Pro line. It's not something that the average third party could probably do, but I have full faith in Guerrilla's ability to do it. If any team can do it, they could. Their engines are it's just incredible tech what they're doing over there. So if anybody could do it, it's them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. Also, just fun note, the first Horizon launched in February 2017.
Yep.
So that'd be interesting if they did push it into that. I mean, that would fit when you push it. If you were to push it to 2022, you'd almost be hitting like 5 years to the date.
Yep, 5 years to the date. Q1 gives them plenty of time to polish and everything like that. Maybe shorten the time between that and Ragnarok, or whatever God of War ends up being
whatever
called.
God of War is,
that could be the two big 2022 things.
Yeah, that could be, because then
And so no, I don't think it's a bad idea necessarily pushing it to 2022. The only thing I just wonder is anybody else ready to fire in 2021? When you look at the first party stable, with Returnal coming out, it's kind of too soon for Naughty Dog probably. I know there's going to be that multiplayer Last of Us thing, but that might, who knows where that is, if that's still happening. I have no clue what's going on with that. Santa Monica is going to be 2022. I'm trying to think. Sucker Punch just went, so they're probably not going to be ready.
So I'd be super surprised if, I don't know. Yeah, and everyone else has been kind of hush hush.
The only possible thing I could think that can have a quick turnaround that is not properly announced yet, that can probably, they could just slip into the holiday game, is maybe Gran Turismo, maybe. But
that's true.
I don't know where they are with that, and I don't know what the appeal of racing games is in 2022 or 2021. Like, I don't know where that is. I don't know how those games sell. I know Forza does really well for Microsoft, but obviously that's an entirely different model, and especially with the Game Pass thing, and what Forza means to the modern game industry. So Gran Turismo is probably the only thing I think that possibly they might be ready to fire, but that's just a guess on my end. Everybody else is, and Sony Bend, we don't even know. They're getting roped into things, so I don't know. And Media Molecule, they're busy making an engine and making that work. That game just, I saw it discounted to $10 the other day. I was like, what the hell?
So I'm looking at a quick note.
Okay.
They have officially moved Gran Turismo to 2022.
Okay, it's 2022 then?
Yep, it was later delayed due to COVID to 2022.
Yep. So I don't think anybody's coming this year then. I think that's it. Yeah. I think after Ratchet, they will probably get some VR stuff for sure. and maybe some smaller stuff. But
yeah, but it's probably be third party heavy.
Yeah, even the what I forget their name. The people who made Sackboy. Do you remember them?
Sumo Digital.
Yeah, Sumo. They just went too. So even the smaller scale, everybody shot their load in 2020 and 2021. So it's gonna be tough to find anybody to tack on to 2021.
I mean, that's when you really push your third-party partnerships. Sony usually works pretty well with Ubisoft, so I mean, maybe they have something for Far Cry, which is
I think Far Cry is going to be the thing. Yeah,
October, I think, is the new date for Far Cry. So
Call of Duty,
Sony's been in bed with them since the PS4 launched, and PS5 shows the same pattern. I think they had an exclusive mode for Black Ops, so
it's Nintendo time.
They might
basically.
flex. Yeah, they might flex their guns a little bit. So.
Yeah, I would say hold it off, and I love those banger years when all the first party guys are ready to go, so they just have thing after thing after thing. So if that means like a chill year, flex the third party, which will keep us plenty busy, and then have Guerrilla and Santa Monica ready to go at the same time. Oh, that would be amazing. I'd love that.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be like that year we got Detroit, Spider-Man, and God of War.
Ooh, that was a banger too. Yeah. So and Miles, I'm trying to think. So Miles came out, but that was a smaller thing. So theoretically, who knows where Sucker Punch will be on the tail end of 2022 as well, if they decide to flip something small again. We'll see.
That's true. That's true too. We don't know.
Oh, and Insomniac,
Insomniac,
my bad. Who knows? They might be able to flip something small too, depending on what they want to do with the Spider-Man franchise going forward.
With Spider-Man too, yeah.
So, yeah, last story, and this is an interesting one that broke. So, this is all kind of tied into Borderlands 3 crossplay across multiple consoles. And this is an issue that I thought was dead and gone, but apparently not. So, Borderlands 3 has prepared an update that theoretically enables full crossplay across all platforms, but developer Gearbox has been told to remove crossplay support for PS4 and PS5. So, the Gearbox CEO, Randy Pitchford, tweeted today, and when he gets to tweeting, it's going to be trouble. I mean, when Randy starts going crazy. Yeah. So, this is what he tweeted. Good news or bad news first? Good news, and an update for Borderlands 3 has been prepared for release that includes full crossplay support across all platforms. Bad news, for certification, we have been required by the publisher to remove crossplay support for PlayStation consoles. Now, the publisher in this instance would be 2K Games, but it's not clear if the decision stems from 2K or Sony. Sony requires Epic to pay for Fortnite's crossplay, so it's possible that 2K has been unwilling to pay for the same privilege. So we know that Sony charges people for certain things that other platforms don't. We know that because their bottom line is we're not going to enable something that in any ways can inhibit our ability to make as much profit as possible. That's Sony's kind of MO right now. And I'm not going to say whether that's a good or... It's not the most player-friendly thing in the world, but they are a company, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me that they act this way. So, you could guess that whatever the profit split is, like, hey, if you want to do crossplay, we need, 30% of all revenue generated through this kind of like maybe microtransactions that have, because if other people are going to be on other platforms and not incentivized to only play on PlayStation, we need a cut of that, is my guess. And 2K was like, no, we're not doing that. So they're like, just cut the crossplay. That's probably my guess. It's just 2K not trying to play ball with the Sony cut thing. And I honestly feel like because of all these lawsuits related to certain storefronts profit splits in Google and in Epic and all this stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more publishers start bucking against certain companies that take profit splits like that or want their cut to exist on their ecosystem or partake in certain features in their ecosystem. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first, not the first, but one of many to come of publishers and developers saying, no, we're not doing that, because if they're not doing it, then we're not doing it anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised with the whole Google profit split thing taking a hit, with Apple taking a hit, with Microsoft recently lowering their cut for certain things. I wouldn't be surprised if people start coming for Sony the same way. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this was interesting, and again, I had the same inkling when they're like, Randy Pitchford said, and I was like, eye roll. But when you go into the news, it is a little weird because I kind of thought they were like 2K and them were like had some sort of deal because when I got my PS5, I got Borderlands 3 ads everywhere I went on my PS5. So you thought they had something kind of incohesive, but I think it makes sense when you look at. I mean, if anybody was gonna, throw a wrench into the crossplay, of course it would be Sony, and things like that. But it's a little wild to think that this is still an issue. We don't know, behind the paywalls and stuff like that. I know Epic. It's funny that Sony requires Epic to pay for the privilege, but Sony now has stake in Epic, so who knows what changed on that forefront. I think if this was a new release, people would probably be a little bit more up in arms. I did see some backlash and stuff like that, but Borderlands 3 at this point is already a few years old.
Yeah.
I also don't know if crossplay is something anyone's ever dying for. I'm sure that I know there's a group who've always been asking for it. I just also don't think this is the biggest deal, because most people I see when they play Borderlands with their friends, it's with their friends who they see every day, or more constantly, and are usually on the same system. So the PC players play with their PC friends, the Xbox player plays with their Xbox friends, and vice versa, and same with the Sony players. So I've never seen like two people like, oh, I wish you could play with us, but bro, you have it on Xbox. Me and my other friend only play it on PlayStation. Like, I just never seen that with Borderlands. So it is a weird thing. I would like to know, just for my curiosity's sake, what caused it for them to, they're like, well, let's remove it. Because they always make it seem like it's just a flick of a switch. I don't know if there's some deeper dive in there. Again, Randy Pitchford also likes to, poke the bears sometimes. So I'm curious what it is, but I think it is something that, we, like you said, will probably see a little bit more and more as these other cuts, fees, lawsuits, all that stuff starting to build up. Maybe it's like, well, maybe it's easier if we just don't do it, best to play on PlayStation or whatever it is. So I'm sure this won't be the only game to do it. I just was surprised a little bit that it was this one.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason this is probably not a bigger story is because it's Borderlands, and the fact that like the games that people really would value that crossplay thing is like the Fortnites, is like the Rocket Leagues, and they've taken care of that since then. So like Borderlands, as you said, people weren't really like fiending to play with people across platforms, so I don't think people cared that much about it. So I mean, I think that's one thing. And if anything, I feel like the story probably shows a little bit that PlayStation is not and has never really fully been sold on the crossplay thing. The only thing that changed was their ability to find a way to monetize it properly and willing to make business deals around that. But at no point did Sony ever feel cool with crossplay, which I was never necessary. I mean, anybody who knows about Sony, who's paid attention to PlayStation for some time, could probably guess that they probably never were enthused about the prospect, but they were tired of the bad PR. But they were not going to give in until they found a way to properly work it into their business model to make some money off that. Because again, like, we're not going to do, it's not even necessarily extra legwork, but it's like, if there's even the slimmest possibility that this makes somebody else make a dime on another platform on our servers, or doesn't come into a PlayStation ecosystem to play something, then we're not down with it. So yeah, this just shows, if anything, that it's a money thing, and that they're not sold on crossplay. Yeah, and if at any point that model doesn't work out well for them, and they're not feeling like their splits are worth the justification for it, because their thinking's not in that pro player way. And I'm not calling them an anti-consumer company, but I'm saying like they're not necessarily motivated by player-centric actions right now, in terms of like certain things like with crossplay and stuff like that. So it just shows that if they're probably completely pull crossplay support at literally any point, if for whatever reason the economics didn't balance out right. And that's just PlayStation. And if you understand them, you know that though they do incredibly smart things on the hardware front in their first party stuff, their games are amazing, it's a really cool company, player friendliness is just not their MO right now. That is just not where they're at right now. They've been there in the past, and they kind of go back and forth with it. And right now they're on a little bit of a streak of just like, F y'all, we gonna make our money, basically. So it's both at the same time surprising, but at the same time, if you pay attention to them, it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I guess we can kind of cap off the show with our loose topic, and this is something that I was conflicted about talking about because I feel like we've talked about it so many times, but the story came up again, and so I feel like this gives us an opportunity to kind of, at least one last time before if it actually ever comes out, once we can talk about the actual reveal, let's just kind of have that conversation about that, which is the resurgence of the news about this whole Switch Pro thing. What do we think this is? Do we think this is legit? And with the idea of the Switch Pro, what would we like it to be? What features would we like it to have? And maybe we could even talk a little bit about timelines. When do we think is a good time to launch it versus when's a not good time to launch it? So let's just take this point by point. So this news that popped up, we have Amazon Mexico leaks of it kind of going up on the Amazon store. It said new Switch Pro or something like that. Nintendo Switch Pro. So it's obviously a placeholder name. There's no way they're going with that name as far as I'm concerned. You might feel differently. But do we think this is... First off, do we think this is actually incoming? Do you think this news is holding any more weight than the previous iterations is my question to you.
Not more. I don't think it raises chances. I think it stays the same, where we've kind of figured for a while that a Switch Pro plus Super Switch or new Nintendo Nintendo Switch, one of those titles, whatever they give it. The Switch Pro, it's obviously coming. I think there's just been too much information. I don't think this one just leads. I think this is just sort of, again, backdoor stuff that they make sure, placeholders and having the page ready to go live and things like that. E3 is, I keep mentioning, but is kind of around the corner. And though Nintendo's never at E3, they just host an event during E3, which would make sense. And I know some of these new stores are saying they may be ready to go for this year. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. In my gut, yeah, there is a new Switch coming for sure.
Yeah, it's just I'm pretty convinced. I mean, if you pay attention to their just life cycle, Nintendo kind of always does that. DS, DSi, 3DS, new 3DS. Even with XLs. The NES, even with the XL consoles, even with the NES, you got the top loader with the Super Nintendo. Like they've always iterated on things, well into the life cycle. So at this point, with the game, the Switch came out in 2017, so we're coming up on 4 years now. That since it's been out, so it's about that time where I feel like they can justify an upgrade. But with this news specifically, it's one of those things where it's like. I feel like it's coming, but I feel like it's a little bit of like psychic prophecy things where it's like they've told us how many times that it's like coming soon, like very soon. So now the newest one is before E3, but I feel like, I swear, like Nintendo fans seem like QAnon people sometimes, where it's like they make these timelines where it's like, oh, it's coming around the corner, and then it doesn't. And it's like, what happened to that? And they were so sure that it was coming with the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it didn't. And it's been out for some time, and who knows? Maybe COVID played a role into why that didn't launch. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they were set to launch it closer to the Switch Lite, but for whatever reason they weren't able to. Them announcing before E3 with its proximity to E3, it doesn't really make sense to me. They said that they're going to participate in E3. If I was the ESA, I'd be like, "Are you really 4 weeks away from our conference and you're going to announce a new console on your own?" Like I would be like, "You really can't wait like a couple of weeks for us?" So I don't see why they'd go out of their way so hard to announce something before E3 when it's so close to E3. And I know Nintendo's never necessarily synced every movement up they do. But they've already released a statement saying that they're willing to participate. And if it's this close, I don't see why they'd beat it out by a week. But who knows? Not impossible. I think the news that a Switch Pro is incoming is legit. But I just don't believe timelines. I just don't. Just because so many have been wrong before. So I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but I'm just saying I don't put a lot of weight in it just because, again, they've been wrong. So if a Switch Pro comes out, not what we want it to be, but what do we realistically think it's going to be? What does it look like? What is it capable of? Does it launch with a game? What are your feelings on that?
It won't launch with a game. Absolutely not. I don't think so. Again, besides bundles, Nintendo hasn't launched a system with a game except certain Wii U's had Nintendo Land bundles with it. So I would
Wii
doubt
Sports.
that. Yeah. So, what do I realistically think it'll be? It's going to be slightly bigger, handheld. Obviously, I think the screen will be a little bit bigger. I don't think the battery life realistically is going to be much better because of. I think it'll be physically, yes, it'll be a better battery, but it's gonna be outputting a little bit stronger. I don't know if it'll go 4K and stuff like that. It just will be a better display. I don't know what technology they're gonna get into it. I'm thinking almost even just like a bigger Vita screen probably is what they're going for, which will balance out the bigger battery they put in. They're gonna boast a better battery, but it's not gonna realistically work. Again, spitballing here. This is the conference I see, and I think they're going to probably rework the Joy-Con situation, the sliding mechanic into it, which works really well, but it isn't always as secure. They wiggle a little bit. My Joy-Con, they came defective, so mine slides out easily, and too many mishaps and little things like that. I think the Joy-Cons themselves will probably go through a slight tweak, mainly because of the whole drift issue, and I really think that's going to be it. I don't think the system is going to be I really don't think it's going to pump out 4K even docked. I don't think it'll do it. I could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong. I just don't think that's never been Nintendo's MO, Yeah. So it is a little weird for that. So that's what I realistically think it'll be.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So obviously it's not going to launch with a pack-in game for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to sync up the release of this to keep it in proximity to the next Zelda game. I wouldn't be surprised about that.
Probably.
Or
Yeah.
a big Mario game or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised with that. Again, Breath of the Wild 2 is what kind of sticks in my head as like a possible game that they might try to link them together to some because again that's how they launched the first Switch, the original Switch.
Yeah.
I have serious doubts that they will completely redo the Joy-Con situation just because people worked so hard to collect them over this time. I mean, many people have multiple sets of Joy-Cons. I don't personally, but I know a lot of people do. And a lot of people, for example, like collected Amiibo, so they brought the Amiibo functionality forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if they release a new SKU of Joy-Con, but I don't think they're going to phase out the old ones, if that makes sense. They're going to definitely make it compatible. They have to. I'd be really surprised if they didn't, just because I just think about think about how old Amiibo really are and how long they've been and how they keep that functionality up because people have these massive collections and it still has a place in that Nintendo ecosystem and integration into modern games that are coming out. And so I just seriously doubt that 4 years after something they're just like, okay, all those Joy-Cons you bought don't work on this one, so sorry. Sorry. I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't necessarily see them doing that. And now for the hardware specs, it's one of those things where I'm not like a tech guru, so I don't necessarily know about the progression of tech on like a year-to-year basis. I would imagine maybe battery tech got incrementally better since 2017. And screen tech has gotten incrementally better since 2017. And I know NVIDIA graphics cards, there's nothing major that they released that I think that would bring it to this ungodly level of processing power since 2017 that NVIDIA's dropped. But it's one of those things where I feel like if they increase the display quality so it outputs at a higher resolution, let's say 1080p, somehow maybe let's say 4K, but I seriously doubt that. And let's say they even have a better battery life with the bigger power draw from that higher resolution screen. I think it's going to balance out in the exact same spot anyways. Like, even with a better battery, if it's a higher resolution screen, we're still looking at, what, 3 to 4 hours? Maybe 5 if it's a lower...
Exactly.
So it's going to bounce out in the exact same place. The only way that they get a really much better battery experience, my guess, is if they keep that 720 screen and then upgrade the battery from there. That's my guess.
Yep.
4K on the screen itself, not a chance in hell. Upscaling, maybe. With an upgraded dock, maybe. I don't know. I'm curious to see how an upgraded dock would work with older Switches, for example. So, like, let's say I have the original Switch, but a newer dock somehow. Would that upscale my old image? I doubt it, but there's a lot of questions that makes me wonder about. If, like, what the compatibility would be between these two consoles, basically, the Pro model versus the regular model. And I would imagine the Pro model would be their intentional to replace and phase out that original model, so it would be the Lite and the Pro going forward.
It usually is.
Yeah, so that's my guess. So they're going to try to phase that out. So they're not going to worry too much about compatibility with, like, older units on the newer docks, my guess. I just have curiosity about that. But yeah, I wonder what matters more to them, is a higher resolution or better battery life. My guess is probably better battery life. So I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if you get a better dock that upscales thing, maybe a little bit more processing power inside the unit itself to help with, like, frame rates and stuff like that, but the screen itself probably staying at 720p just to keep that battery life manageable, if that makes sense. That's probably my guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I pretty much agree with you. Spot on.
And so now that's what we think it will be. What do we want it to be? What's your best case scenario in terms of, I guess, what's feasible for a Nintendo Switch Pro? What do you want that to look like?
What would I like if it was tailor made for me?
Yeah, like if you were like your dream scenario for the Switch Pro, what do you want for the Switch Pro?
Built-in Joy-Cons. Like, the Joy-Cons are part of the system.
Like the Lite, then?
Kind of like the Lite. Yeah, okay. Like a dockable Lite, pretty much. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Like a dockable Lite, pretty much. Yeah, and I'd love the screen to be 1080p and then docked realistically, 4K. But even if it's checkerboarding it just as a higher rate, I'd be fine. I just would also... tailor-made for me is like I wouldn't care too much about resolution. I'm more about the functionality, better draw distances and things like that, and small things like that. I play, like if you think of the Musou games that are on there, even unlocked on there, Fire Emblem Warriors, both Hyrule Warriors, all those. There's some, there's other ones that are cross-platform, but the main ones have terrible draw distances, where enemies literally checkerboard in and checkerboard out if you take one step forward, one step back. And that's where I would actually care. I'd actually care about more of the power than what it is, because everything I played on my Switch, I usually play mainly undocked in handheld mode. Even is a crisp 720, especially the size of the screen. It's really crisp. It's really solid. Even some of these multi-platform games, it's always about how the games run is where there's more issue, in my opinion. So that's where I would really like it. I would like it to be one solid system, so I don't worry about my Joy-Cons falling out, and I'd care all about the power. Yeah,
mine would actually be very, very similar as well. It's one of those things that my mind kind of goes to, like, there's always a gap between Nintendo hardware's performance and kind of the rest of the industry. They're always a little bit lower, but they have these amazing experiences to make for it. So, like, power and resolution has never been their focus at all. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's user experience. Which so I don't expect them to release some, like, ridiculously powerful console, but I feel like there's always a gap between what PlayStation, Xbox is doing and what Nintendo's doing, and that's fine. But I think with the PS5 and the Series X right now, the gap is a little too big for comfort right now between what those consoles are doing and what the Switch is doing. And obviously that's just because timeline syncing up wise, Nintendo has this staggered approach where they launch like in the mid-cycle of where PlayStation and Xbox launch. So it puts them in a weird position where sometimes, depending on the way you look at it, either they beat them out or they're falling behind, depending on how you look at it. And so... in many ways, I just want them to close that gap a little bit. And I agree with you completely. I don't give a crap about resolution because, to be honest, if I cared so much about resolution, I'd play everything on PC, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So and if I cared about the most insane frame rates, I'd play on PC as well. So I just want it good enough for what the experiences are asking for. So for me personally, I have no problem with the Switch because I think for what Odyssey was trying to do, it was fine. It performed as good as it needed to. It ran beautifully. But there's points, especially like when I'm talking about like Pokemon games, where there's these insane frame hiccups, even like with Pokemon Snap. And it's like y'all need to figure that out because these games are not that ambitious. And so that is what I mean. It's like just close that gap a little bit where some of these even newer Nintendo games are running properly. So I don't think that they need to, whatever Call of Duty is next, that needs to be on the next Switch and running at 4K. Of course not. But I just want them to be able to keep up. And it's getting to a point where there's like some first party releases, and I guess you can consider Pokemon a first party release, where I'm seeing like frame hiccups on Pokemon Snap, and I'm like, Pokemon Snap? Like that's making your hardware choke up a little bit. Like come on, guys. And I see like with Pokemon Arceus coming out, and at some point like another Zelda. I'd like them to be a little bit more ambitious with Zelda. However, with the hardware that they're on, they can't be. So that's what I'm hoping for them, is just to be able to close that gap a little bit and just better performance. If it can do 30 locked, okay, that's kind of the low end. I'd love for them to be able to play around with a little bit higher than that. So maybe if they keep a lower resolution, but you're able to get 60 frames on like Fortnite and Rocket League, I think that would be great. If I could keep like 720p on Hades, but get like really higher frame rates on Hades, I think that would be ideal for me. So yeah, I agree with you completely. Performance matters more than resolution for me. I'm not a big fan of removable Joy-Cons because I don't play like that. However, exactly. I do go back and forth between playing handheld and playing on my TV. So the dock portion is important to me. That's why I can't go fully to the Switch Lite. Otherwise, I would. I've known a couple people with Switch Lites, and I hold it in my hand. I'm like, this is amazing. I love the Switch Lite form factor, but I need the docking ability because there's just some games I do like on my TV. And so, yeah, I agree with you completely. Taking away, not necessarily taking away, but if they offer a version of the Switch Pro without removable things, I actually think that's a good thing. Because, yeah, my left one is starting to slip out a little bit. The rails maybe loosened up a little bit or something like that. And it also does the thing sometimes where it's like attached to my Switch, but it's not registering it. And I have to like slide it out and put it back in. And it's moments like that. And maybe like the drift issues and apparently the Switch Lite has drift issues too, so maybe that's not even linked to the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, that's true.
But as long as I can fix the drift issues, I'm not going to miss not having removable Joy-Cons. So the Vita form factor, I think, is amazing. I love the way the Switch Lite feels. I would even be okay with a little bit of a grooved back, similar to a controller.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. And they always have like these things that you can attach to your like DS, your Vita, your Switch, where it gives it more of a cushion on the back. I wouldn't mind if Nintendo played around with that, maybe a little bit of a little butt to it on the back to fit into the palms a little bit better. I think would be great. Just playing around with the form factor, because I do feel like I love the Switch, but that kind of flat back can be a little bit uncomfortable for longer play sessions. For my hand type, I know maybe some other people don't have that experience, but for me, it kind of hurts after a while. And I, to be honest with you, the Vita after a while does the exact same thing, so there's not a Nintendo issue at all.
Absolutely.
It's just it's a flat back thing, and it's a little less severe. But there's something about like no cushion, nothing to really wrap my hands around, just kind of just resting there on like a tablet. That is really uncomfortable after long periods of time. So I'd love to see them play around with the form factor of the device itself, ideally, and that's my kind of dream scenario. So yeah, that was our loose topic. We'll see what happens with the Switch Pro. Let's see if the prophecy is wrong again. And so E3 this year, do we have it? Do you know the day offhand? It's July, right?
July.
Okay, July 12th to June. Wait, June 12th to June 15th.
June, yep.
Oh, it's June. Okay, so that gives them 2 weeks basically. So, Nintendo fans, all y'all who are saying it's before E3, let's see. We got 2 weeks, and then E3 time, and we'll see what they announce at E3. I'm curious. I always get excited to see what Nintendo announces, because they announce certain things that are far off, and then they always have a pretty solidly like large game that just comes out of nowhere. And so that's what I'm excited for, because I know there's something they probably have set for the fall that is just going to come out of absolutely nowhere. That's like, holy crap, okay, cool.
Always. Yeah,
they always have something that it's like I think that was like Paper Mario, where it was like announced in like March and out by June or July. So
yeah, I do remember. Yeah, it was some random morning they just trailer.
And that game was good. I like that game. Like, is it my favorite Paper Mario game in the world? No, but I thought it was really, really solid. And Nintendo does that, and I've always respected that out of them, where they know. That's what I love about Nintendo, is they know their IP is good, and so sometimes they're like, we don't even need to do the work. Like, here you go, 3 months, you're gonna buy it anyways. So I love that about them.
That's true. Yep.
So yeah, that was the show, guys, and we'll be back in another 2 weeks, since we do this every other week now. So I hope you guys like the show. I'm Jabril, and I am with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.